This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for February 13th, 2025. This is Season 14, Episode number 43, Episode number 482 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Power Play Post Show. I am your host, Bob Howard. Thank you very much for joining us. I believe we have probably one of the best shows we've had in a while. I'm very excited to have on the two guests this week on this particular show that I'm going to have. And number one, obviously, Binghamton Black Bears defenseman Jesse Anderson. We've had him on before. We've talked to him at practices, gotten audio from him, but we're going to bring him back on again. It's been, oh my gosh, at least a year and a half or so since we've had him in a sit-down interview with us here on the Power Play Post Show. Very excited about that. But also at the same time, former Binghamton Black Bear and current Baton Rouge Zydeco head coach Everett Thompson will be on the show. And I had a phenomenal conversation with him yesterday. He has a lot of energy, he has a lot of excitement, loves this league, and is doing a great job down there in Baton Rouge. They've had their ups and they've had their downs. They're on a long-term road trip right now because of Mardi Gras, so they lose their arena for about a month. And so they're on a long, they've already done 8 games in this long road trip that they have to do because of losing the arena. Either way, both guys will be here on the show. Very excited for you guys to hear those interviews. I'm going to keep my opening segment here as short as possible just because. We'll talk about the HC Venom and those 2 games coming up. But I wanted to, here in the beginning, talk a little bit about where the Black Bears truly stand in the standings when it comes. Now, everybody knows they're at the top of the standings, right? 92 games, 92 points. They've played 37 games. They're 32-4-1 with 92 points. It's pretty impressive. An .829 winning percentage, right? And realistically, even though in the regulation loss column, Athens is close with only having 4 regulation losses, same as Binghamton, Athens has had to win 4 more additional games than the Black Bears when it comes to overtime or the shootout. Matter of fact, the Athens Rock Lobsters have won 3 games in the shootout and then won an additional game in overtime versus the Black Bears. And that plays an effect on your winning percentage. Now, the Black Bears have played 37 games. Athens is 29. I think Athens does play this evening as I'm recording this here on Wednesday, February 12th. Okay. And they play against the Columbus River Dragons. So they're going to get a game in hand, or they're going to use one of those game in hands that they have on the Black Bears, because I do believe they play this weekend a couple times as well. Yes, they have the Dashers coming in on Saturday, and let's see if they also play on Friday. And then, yes, so they'll have the Dashers. They'll actually be in Danville for 2 games against the Dashers on Friday and Saturday. Oh, and then they also play Sunday. So, matter of fact, they're going to be playing what I like to call the junkyard dog kind of 4 games in 5 nights, right? It's like getting in the ring with junkyard dog. You just get ripped apart. Now, 3 of those games are against the Dashers, and we already know that the Dashers have only won 1 game this year. Unfortunately, they're 29-3. So, but the reason why I bring this up, because when people look at the standings, they're probably looking at it and going, well, wait a second here. Athens only has 4 regulation losses. It's got to be pretty close, right? Black Bears have 27 regulation wins right now, which gives them such a hefty point total, right? You take 27, you times it by 3. I mean, that already puts you, at 71 points. Okay, and Athens has only got 14 regulation wins. So we'll see what happens at the end of this weekend. I don't think you can really compare Athens right now to Binghamton. I know I've done it a couple times. You just really can't do that too much as of yet. But the Black Bears, 92 points. The closest team to them right now is the Carolina Thunderbirds with 76 points. They've played 35 games. Binghamton has played 37. It's still not close. Binghamton is just right now outperforming everybody else. They are 11-0-0 in their last 11 games. Okay, so that's pretty impressive. They've only had one loss. So right now, if you take the last 19 games that they have played, they've only lost one game in the last 19. That's a pretty impressive run. Right now, the Carolina Thunderbirds, they're 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 8 in a row. Okay. And Danbury is starting to get a little bit of a heater as well. They've won their last 6. Now, Danbury, though, is 31 points behind the Black Bears. They've played 2 less games. Right, so even if you give them those 6 points, 70. I mean, it's 20, basically 27 points difference. Even if you give them those 6 points with the 2 games in hand, so the Black Bears are comfortable where they are, and that leads me up to what we're going to talk about after we preview the series against the HC Venom coming up. Okay, so the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook, search for Power Play Post Show, and please join. Check out BinghamtonHockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, as I already said, Black Bears defenseman Jesse Anderson, also assistant captain, and former Binghamton Black Bear and current Baton Rouge Zydeco head coach Everett Thompson will be on the show. So, as I said, the Black Bears play the HC Venom in a back-to-back series in Binghamton at the arena on Friday and Saturday. Now, Saturday could have some nasty weather, so be careful, fans, if you go. It's also a 6 o'clock start on Saturday. So let's not forget that. A 6 o'clock p.m. start for Saturday against the HC Venom. On Friday, it will be the normal 7 o'clock start, but it's the 6 o'clock start on Saturday. Now, the Venom and the Black Bears last played last Saturday in Binghamton, where the Black Bears got a 3-2 win, a game that the Black Bears head coach, Brant Sherrod, was not happy with the performance of his players. And before I read the quote one more time, because I read the quote on our last edition of the show, and of course you guys read it in my day after game report, I want to say that I did retort what he said here with, but you guys have won 11 in a row, and you're going to have games like this where you might just barely win, or it's a hard-fought win, or it's a character win. He didn't see it necessarily that way, and that's fine. He's the head coach. He can do whatever he can do and think whatever he wants about his team. That's his job. It's his legacy. It's what he's paid to do. But here's this quote again, because I think it's very interesting. He goes, "I thought our first line showed up, especially Kirkby. Everybody loved that fight. After the fight, the team came up with a little bit more jam. Overall, it felt like a loss, and we simply did not execute well. We tried to make too many cute plays instead of making simple plays. A player would be 5 feet ahead, and we would try for a home run play. We'll get back to work on Tuesday. It'll be a great wake-up call for the group." Now, I'll be talking with Jesse Anderson. You'll hear that in just a little bit, and I'll ask him about practices and how practices were leading up to this and how it compared to maybe practices before the Columbus River Dragons series as well. But that was his quote there. And one of the things that, I wanted to touch upon again was overall it felt like a loss and we simply didn't execute well. And I understand where he's coming from there, right? Because you see certain things like, not winning certain battles and the transitions from zone to zone might not always be that great. But he also said that they were not executing all that well. So there's certain parts of the game that he wasn't happy with. One of the things that I've been thinking about recently is that the power play just really hasn't clicked all that well in the last 3 weeks, right? We haven't seen a lot of power play goals. And I think that what's interesting is that we're seeing that teams have been able to kind of execute and get, in some cases, only just one power play goal against the Black Bears, but they're getting that, right? And I think that is something that is probably something that he wants to tighten back up again and get the Black Bears back to being excellent defensively on the penalty kill, and then, of course, trying to produce a little bit more on the power play. But 5-on-5, I think one of the things he's talking about is just, when you kind of like you're in the offensive zone and you're moving north to south, and you kind of like leave the puck behind you, hoping that you have the trailing player come in and pick it up. Some of those things were missed against the Venom last Saturday, right? I think I saw it at least twice. And there are things like that just probably get, it's something that, Sherwood sees immediately, and then he wants to correct. Okay, so what will we see this weekend from the Black Bears? Will we see a team that'll come out and, beat the Venom like they beat the Columbus River Dragons, right? Did Coach Sherwood have to ramp up practice, right, to get these results again? I know they had Sunday and they had Monday off. That is normal procedure for the Black Bears. But it'll be interesting to see if they come out of that with a better mindset. I don't want to see the energy because I thought the effort was good against the HC Venom. So I don't think it's an effort. I don't think it was an effort issue. I understand saying that it was an issue with execution, and maybe that's the case. But I thought the effort was very good. For the Black Bears and everybody on there. But I could see that there were just certain things that just weren't clicking. And like I said, maybe the power play hasn't clicked well in the last 3 weeks or so, right? So the Black Bears are 32-4-1 with 92 points and first in the Empire Division, as we all know. The Venom are 7-20-3 with 24 points and are sixth in the Empire Division. The Venom are led by Dustin Jesseau, 20, 23, 43 points through 20 games played. He's got 6 power play goals and 2 game-winning goals. We'll see if he shows up and, makes a point there. Lester Brown, who I believe scored in the last game against the Black Bears, 8-17 for 25 points through 31 games and only 2 power play goals, right? Mark Sokoloff is 1-7-2 for 0.85 goals against average, 869 save percentage. They do have the one goalie there that we'll see if he gets a game in this weekend against the Black Bears. We don't know if John Moriarty is going to be back because he's out on injury. So it'll be interesting to see what they do goaltending-wise. The Black Bears are led by Tyson Kirkby, of course, 24 goals, 34 assists for 58 points through 30 games. He's so close to, he's like at 1.95 points per game, which is pretty impressive. 8 power play goals, 3 shorthanded goals, 3 game-winning goals for Kirkby, the captain. Austin Thompson, 23 goals, 23 assists. Mr. Consistency, number 1, right? With 46 points through 37 games played, 3 power play goals, 3 shorthanded goals, 6 game-winning goals. Yeah, to Austin Thompson is literally there on everything. And the one offensive category that Tyson Kirkby does not own in franchise history is game-winning goals, and that's Austin Thompson, which is pretty funny if you ask me. But there it is. He's there for the clutch goals, right? I think as much as Tyson Kirkby is clutch as well, Austin Thompson is almost as equally as clutch, getting those game-winning goals. And he's there for every aspect of the offensive side of the game. And he's not that bad as a two-way forward, right? He's not that bad defensively. So it's a pretty good 2-1 punch for the Black Bears on that top line. Dakota Bond, 10-34 for 44 points. He's one of, 8 guys now on this team to have double-digit goals. Through 44 games, he's got 4 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, 3 game-winning goals. Connor McAnanima, he's 22-1 with a 2.09 goals against average and a 924 save percentage. Nolan Egbert, 12-2-0 with a 3.29 goals against average and an 889 save percentage, right? Either one of these goalies because of how good the team is in front of them and how well everybody plays good team defense, these goalies are just racking up the wins, which is pretty awesome. So what it comes down to is this: is how is this team going to get to 12 and to 13 wins in a row? It's pretty simple. You can't be overconfident coming into a game, no matter who the opponent is, right? You want to be confident in your game individually, personally, and your team game, but you don't want to be so overconfident that a team can find a crack in that confidence and kind of, start wedging in. And that happens sometimes. And I think that part of what coach is worried about after seeing them only win 3-2 against the Venom, and the Venom really got the last 2 goals in that last 20 minutes. And I think, Coach Sherwood goes into the locker room afterwards and thinking to himself, what did I just see in that last 20 minutes, right? It's not that the effort was bad. It was that some of the execution wasn't that good. So how do the Black Bears get the 12th and 13th win in a row? Essentially what it comes down to is that you just got to do the small things and all of the simple things perfectly. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect, and it doesn't mean you have to grip your sticks too hard. You just have to play the game the right way, the way you know how to play, and not let anything else kind of get in the way. And don't get overly fancy. Like I said, play the systems. These systems that Coach Sherwood puts into place, they're not complicated, right? That's why people can shuffle in and out of lines, and guys know what to do, and they know what to do where. It's just executing those systems that are simple, but just making it, and then having fun, right? And not letting referees get in your way. Now, of course, the fans are going to be behind them in both games because they're at home. So that's really what it comes down to. So I'm hoping that basically Coach emphasized systems, passing the puck the right way and getting shots on goal. A lot more shots on goal during power play time will, I think, be a benefit. And then just not getting into your own head. And I think that's a big part of it as well. You don't want to mentally get into your own head thinking, wait a second here, we should be beating these guys by 3, 4, 5 goals a game. You can't think that way, right? If they go in Friday and they beat the Venom 4-2 or 4-1, just because they didn't score 9 against the Venom or 10 against the Venom doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the team. And the players can't think that way. Coach Sherwood can't think that way. Basically, a win is a win, period. I can understand looking at a period, breaking down plays and going, we could have done better here and here and here, but you're still 11-0 in the last 11 games. And that's the important thing. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that just a little bit because I understand oh my gosh, they only won 3-2 over the Venom, right? But they beat the Columbus River Dragons 11-4. Okay. Well, I could say that, listen, a win's a win, regardless if it's 11 goals or 3 goals. I'd be more concerned with the 4 goals against the Columbus River Dragons than the 2 goals against or 2 goals that the Venom scored. But I'm not the head coach of the Binghamton Black Bears. I'm also not the head coach that just won a championship, too. I'm just throwing thoughts, and psychology out there is very important with players, especially with goaltenders, right? You don't want a goaltender to think he's done something wrong just because he gave up 2 goals in the last 20 minutes of a game. Connor did nothing wrong. Those were good shots. Those were wristers, and these were shots that probably would have beat a lot of people, okay? Has nothing to do with Connor. Has nothing to do with Nolan Egbert. The 4 goals that Nolan Egbert gave up. But, I mean, you would think that system-wise, you don't want to give up 4 goals in any game. So I still think that they're okay. Everybody's okay. This is all good, and they're going to come into this, and I believe they're going to get to 2 wins. It's just a matter of how, and how does it look afterwards. Well, we'll definitely see. Okay, so coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, we have a nice little interview with Jesse Anderson, our good friend, defenseman from the Binghamton Black Bears, assistant captain, part of the leadership group for Brant Sherwood, and just overall, just a super nice guy. Very excited to have him back on the show. So after we get done with him, we'll shift it over to Everett Thompson from the Baton Rouge Zydeco. So But first, coming up here next on the Power Play Post Show is Jesse Anderson. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Buchinski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. He's an old vet here on the show. He's been on a couple of different times. We've talked to him after practices and during the playoffs. But, the last time we probably had him here on the show was about a year and a half ago. He is a Binghamton Black Bears defenseman, Jesse Anderson, assistant captain. Jesse, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Bob.
Obviously, the team is playing outstanding. What a great season this has been already for the Black Bears, being 32-4-1, 92 points. No one's even close to those numbers at the moment. Your thoughts, going into 37 games so far this season, how has the team played?
I think we played really well. Those couple losses, I don't think we could have lost them all, but it's just those things happen. The wins, you can see guys are really stringing things together, and we can persevere through anything, even when we're down. So it's nice to see that, and it's hopefully we keep this rolling into playoffs.
Is there a little bit of a surprise or shock in the locker room, because you guys go and you win a championship, and it was a pretty impressive run, 7-0 in the playoffs, and then a lot of guys return, and these results don't always happen for a second year team after a championship. Is there a little bit of shock and surprise that you guys have been this good so far?
Not necessarily. I think for the guys that returned, we knew what we wanted to do again, and sure, what's good at bringing in either new guys or some veteran guys from different teams, different leagues. So I think overall, I wouldn't really say it's a shock. I think we're very happy with the way it's been going so far. So, it could be a little worse. It could always be a little bit better, but I think overall we're generally happy as a team.
I'm going to say this, and this might be like a really dumb question. Is there anything you guys can get better at? I know the old cliche saying is, we can always improve, right? But, being one of the best power plays, one of the best penalty kills, shorthanded, you guys are so freaking dangerous. It's not even funny. 5-on-5, you guys are great. Where are the rooms? Where are the places where you guys can improve? Is there?
There's always room for improvement. I think, talking about the PK and the PP, I know we're up in the top maybe 5, top 3. I think everyone wants to strive to be number 1, so that's always a place to be. Keeping our goal differential as well as it is, trying to keep pucks out of our end, our net. I think that's a big thing that we've tried to do this year and strive for. So. Just essentially reassuring those things, and if anything happens, during the week that we see that we need to tweak a bit, we try and do that, and yeah.
I know the talk before the Columbus series was that Coach kind of like ramped up practices a little bit for you guys. I know he mentioned to me after you guys beat the Venom 3-2 that he. Okay, we got to get back to work on Tuesday. How much more have the practices been ramped up a little bit as he's preparing you guys, obviously, for the playoffs?
Yeah, you'll see we'll start to ramp it up a little bit. We're kind of just pushing through the last of the dog days, as they call it, of the season. So it's kind of getting to the time what we call crunch time and getting everybody ready to go into that state of playoffs is around the corner, and every game matters. So
Now, if I remember correctly, last year in February, you guys didn't have as many home games in the month of February, and I believe it's 9 or 10 games from the end of January to the beginning of March at home. Does that make the dog days of the hockey season a little bit better, knowing that you guys aren't traveling this month?
Yeah, it definitely helps. I mean, we had a pretty crazy schedule the last couple weeks, being down in Mississippi and all this road travel where you're trying to get practices in when you can, and Tuesday feels like a Thursday and a Thursday feels like a Sunday, so you're just kind of everywhere, just trying to wrap your head around it. But being at home for a month, we've already had a couple, but the rest of this month is just a nice thing to have. You can kind of just relax a bit. You're getting up, going to practice, not having to worry about where you're traveling to and stuff like that. So it's nice to have.
Yeah, was it difficult in the beginning of January to do Port Huron and then Motor City back to back like that?
Yeah, it's a long one. I mean, you're getting on the bus on a Thursday morning. You're getting all the way out to Michigan, playing those games, coming home, and then getting some practice in and doing the same thing. So it is tough on the body, but as a team, we were up for it.
Yeah.
Just one of those things, every team does it, so it's just how you handle it.
I've talked to a lot of different players and broadcasters who take those long road trips. Are you able to sleep at all on the bus?
I don't, actually.
No?
I work the whole time, unfortunately. So I sit on the bus and I'm just working away.
So you pull out the laptop, got the hotspot going, and you're literally, working like on a Thursday when you're traveling out to Michigan.
Yeah, so we'll get on the bus depending on time we leave, say like 8 or 9 or in the morning, and I'll have my laptops with me. I'll be working, and then in the back, usually the guys are playing some cards or whatever, so I'll be playing with them. And if I'm getting emails, I'll try and answer them as I'm playing cards. Just letting the day go by and making sure I'm doing my work and hanging out with the guys. So
yeah, so I know the sleeping part is always tough on road trips. I have to ask you, you've spent a couple different seasons playing between the SP and the obviously the Federal League. I've said multiple times on this show, and I'm sure you've heard this as well. The play is getting so much closer between the two leagues. Does it really make a difference to you, or are you just so happy in Binghamton that it doesn't really matter between the SP and the Fed anymore?
Yeah, I'd say I'm just pretty happy with where I'm at. Everyone from Sherwood to Andreas, everybody we have in the locker room, it's just a good group of guys. It's kind of hard to leave. You get treated well somewhere, you kind of want to stay and continue to ride what you have going for you and what's good. So that's kind of what I've been doing, and I enjoy every day going to the rink. So kind of hard to want to leave that.
No, I totally understand that. And we've seen guys like Blake Tosta go up, and of course, some of the other guys that has gone up as well. Is that something that you have even asked to do, or are you like one of those guys that says, I signed here, I want to play here now?
I mean, there's always certain times that maybe you want to go up for a weekend or two. I did it last year with Kirkby. We went up to Roanoke. We had some time off. So, I mean, there's certain instances where, I would take a call-up, but I wouldn't be staying up there for an extended period of time.
Jesse, you're part of the leadership group with the Black Bears, and we have seen an increase, especially with Binghamton and Athens sending guys up to the ECHL. How important do you think that is for, in some cases, for recruitment to Fed teams, and also just the motivation for some players to know that there is an opportunity to be able to play in ECHL, even if you're playing here in the Fed, you can get that opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's just a testament to some of the guys that we have in this league that could definitely play at higher levels. Just shows how good some teams treat you in this league. That's why guys don't want to leave. So, like you said, the gap, the skill gap's kind of closing between the SP and the Fed. Yeah, I mean, I think we would do quite all right in the SPHL, to be completely honest. I don't see us I wouldn't say it would be the cream of the crop up there, but I think we could hold our own, no problems.
So let me ask you, do you think you could beat all 10 teams?
Well, I think that'd be the goal. I don't see why not. Any team could beat anybody on any given night. We've seen that in the NHL. So
yeah. So possibly. Okay. All right. Hey, which is good. Let me ask you this: you've been with the Black Bears for parts of the last 3 seasons. How good has Tyson Kirkby become as a player? Not just as a captain and a leader, but just as a player himself. He's firing on all cylinders this season.
I think Kirkby's always been like that. I think he's shown it throughout the years. He showed it last year.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of got snubbed on certain things from last year for Player of the Year, stuff like that, MVP. I think this year he's kind of just saying, like, this is my league, so come watch me, essentially.
And not only is he, scoring goals and assists, I mean, the fight that he had against Embry on Saturday night, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a big boy. He can handle his own, so never too worried when he drops the gloves.
Now, of course, you've dropped the gloves a few times as well in your career. Are you? You're not one that looks for it. I'm going to just say it that way. But you definitely know the right time to drop the gloves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go around looking for it, but sometimes when someone gets me a little too angry, I do tend to drop them. Or someone runs through our goal, I'll stand up for them. Might not be the best time to do it. Might also be a guy that's a lot bigger than me, but someone's got to do it. Okay,
now I know you've probably seen the pictures I put out there. Was the fight strap on when you started the fight last year?
Yes.
100%. Because the pictures were there, it was on, and somehow for some reason they said it wasn't. So. Yeah, that's just. I don't think. I probably shouldn't say it, but no, it's okay. Don't say it. Don't say it. I'm not. I wasn't trying to get you to say it. I just. It was. No, I just don't think the refs. All the refs in this league like me too much, but that's. But why? You're one of the nicest guys on this team. I don't know. I do yell a little bit. Yeah, I give him a little bit sometimes. But every hockey player in every level does that, and not just. Yeah, and not just that. I've heard that some referees don't like Gavin Yates, and like that confuses the heck out of me as well. So, but I never understood that one. You've played this year with Cam Cervoni and I believe now with Dan Weber. Talk about those two players a little bit, and a little bit different style than the way you play the game. Yeah, I mean, it's been good playing with both of them. I mean, Cervoni's a great player. I mean, he's up with Huntsville now, and I'm happy for him, and I hope he's enjoying it. I talked to him a little bit, and he said he's having a good time. So, yeah, he's just an all-around good player. Is really good defensively with the puck and has 100% some good offensive upside. He was really easy to play with at the start of the year, and just made my life easier when I like to, join the line rush a little too many times. So it's nice knowing I have someone that can lock it down. Same with Weaves. I think he's turned into a really, really good defenseman. He's really good now with his defensive play, and I hope the rest of this year he can show a little bit more of the offensive, because he's got a really great shot, and I think a lot of people underestimate how good of a player he really is. So, and he happy to be playing with him. Yeah, and he prides himself on his skating ability. His skating ability is getting a lot better, and he's becoming a much smoother skater than maybe he was when he first got to Binghamton last year. Oh yeah, I mean, you can see the development he's had over the last year and a bit. So yeah, I'm thrilled to be playing with him. I love him. He's one of my good buddies. So it's awesome to play with a guy like that and have him as a friend. Jesse, how easier is it for you guys as a defensive core, knowing that you guys have C-Mac and Eggy behind you guys, making very good saves? There are a lot of shots that don't get to those guys because of the defensive core, but you guys, with the abilities to be able to, to pinch when you're in the offensive zone, knowing that you guys have, two very good goaltenders back there, how important is it for your confidence knowing how good those guys are?
Yeah, I mean, just having two solid goalies on the back end, I mean, it makes our job a lot easier. I know there's sometimes we kind of leave them out to dry, but they always have our backs, which is really nice. They both have their own style of goalie, and we love them both for it, and they do everything they can to keep pucks out of our net, and we just got to play in front of them. So they make our lives every night pretty easy, if you ask me.
Yeah, and when we watch Connor, it seems like sometimes he can get, not angry with anybody, but just gets angry during the game, and it makes him fight a little bit harder. And then Eggy, the way he plays like such an old school goaltender, getting on the ice and pad stacking, things of that nature. It's totally two different styles, but it really seems to work well.
Yeah, I think it works perfectly for us. I mean, I enjoy both of them every day, and you get one at one end on your end practice, you get more of a modern kind of style goalie in Macker, and then Eggy with that kind of like an older 80s, 90s style. So it's fun every day to have.
No, absolutely. Jesse, talk a little bit about Morrisville State College, or I'm sorry, SUNY Morrisville. There's so many Mustangs on the team. Can you tell me why? Obviously, you were there for a few years, but there's been so many guys to come out of the Mustangs to play pro, and not just for Binghamton, but for other teams as well. Is there something that you can point to with the Mustangs program that has gotten guys ready for pro hockey?
I think just like the overall, everything they have going there. They have good gym, good rinks on campus. I know a lot of the SUNY teams have that. Maybe a little bit of drive coming from not being able to place very high, I guess, in the SUNY conference. Not a dig to the college or anything. It happens. There's some really good teams in that division. So I think it's guys striving to want a little bit more. But Krogel, our coach there, has always done well, and he's able to keep sending guys along. So it's a good look for the college, and hopefully it helps bring more guys there for them.
Yeah, and I mean, just some of the guys that that you guys have got, other than yourself. I mean, Cam Clark is he's a spark plug out there on the ice. Chris Ma, different playing style than me, Clarkie, but very good, talented players coming out of there. Yeah,
you definitely get an abundance of all different play styles and play types, and it definitely, you can see how it is easy to make that jump up to the pro level. So,
what do you guys have to do to continue the winning streak this weekend against the Venom?
For me, the winning streak really doesn't. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but it's more of just continuing the right things as a team. We're working to an end goal of winning another championship. So, just making sure we, are focusing on the right things every game and coming out hard, even though it's, whoever we're playing, if it's the Venom or, Athens, Columbus, Carolina, whoever it is, just making sure we're prepared and ready to play every night.
Were you, I don't want to say surprised, but were you happy with the results against Columbus? Obviously, you guys won 11-4, and of course 5-1. Those are great wins against a team that a lot of people talked about before coming in to Binghamton was going to be a good test for Binghamton. What were your thoughts on those two wins?
Yeah, I think as a team, we excelled. We played well. We showed that when we play the right way together and work hard and show other teams that we are the best in the league. So I think overall it was a great weekend for us, and something to take pointers from and to continue striving the rest of the season.
Now, before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about the fans here in Binghamton. I still think that, when it comes down to it, one of the top 5 minor pro hockey fan bases in North America, without a doubt. I put us up there with the Hershey Bears fans and a lot of other, some of the other big fan groups. Can you talk a little bit about how important the fans have been for you players here in Binghamton?
Yeah, I mean, fans are great. It's such a great thing to come into every Friday and Saturday night, knowing that your home rinks either sold out or pretty close to sold out. I mean, it's kind of hard for a team to come into an opposing barn knowing they're going to get a little heckled and the crowd's going to be on them at all points of the game. So, and they can easily help us, if we're losing a little bit of momentum, they help us swing it back in our favor. So it's a great thing.
And Booster Club's probably one of the best that you've probably been a part of or had supporting you guys. But let me ask you this. Is there a reverse effect when you go into a barn and there's not a lot of fans in the barn?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Like even as an away team going into a barn with a lot less fans, it's kind of like, you're at the helm of your own team. You got to make your own momentum, keep the guys on a good level note. But when there's fans there, it just makes all the difference. So.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that a lot of times when I talk to players, they say, listen, when I'm on the ice, I zone everything out. Everything goes out. But I have a feeling that when the play stops and you guys are either on the bench and, you kind of feel the energy. There is an energy that gets into you, and you can give out to the fans as well, right? Yeah,
absolutely. There's you can definitely feel it. So it's a nice thing to have, especially here in Binghamton. You don't get that in a lot of the other places in our conference, at least.
No, absolutely. Well, I got to be honest with you. This year, anytime I've ever announced that there was going to be a player from the team on the show, I always see something like, "Oh, he's my kid's favorite player." So on, and Jesse, you get that. You get that too, where these kids look up to you guys. Some of them are hockey players, some of them are not. They're just maybe other athletes or just young kids in general and everything. That must mean a lot to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a great thing. I mean, we play this game because we love it, and we're happy to provide so many fans with someone to look up to. I mean, my whole life, you want to be in the NHL and all that, and lots of people look up to those players. So to be able to even just touch a couple and be like, yeah, I'm a role model for them. It's a great thing.
Absolutely. Wait, you're not making $1 million playing here in Binghamton?
I wish. I wouldn't be working full-time then, too.
Fair enough. I think if the podcast was making me $1 million, I would not be working full-time as well, so I totally get it. Jesse, thank you very much for coming on. We definitely appreciate it, and good luck the rest of the way, and hey, championship number 2 has never been done, back-to-back here in the Fed. And honestly, in the 52 years of Binghamton hockey, you guys already know that you've already only won the second championship this city has ever seen. So getting a third and back-to-back here would be pretty nice.
I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, that's what we'd like to do. So we're just going to keep pushing towards that. And thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, I appreciate it. And we'll be right back right after this with Everett Thompson from the Baton Rouge Zydeco, the head coach of the Zydeco. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Very excited to have this gentleman on with me. I know I say that a lot, but I truly, truly mean this. When looking up his background, coming from Grand Rapids, Michigan, I was like, oh, man, I can immediately talk to him about the Griffins and a whole lot of other things. He is the head coach of the Baton Rouge Zydeco. He is Everett Thompson. Coach, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I know you've listened to some past episodes. I know we've talked, and I'm just glad we finally narrowed it down and we're getting you here on the show.
Thank you for having me on. Yes, definitely a long-time listener, first-time caller, per se.
Perfect. I love that. So, again, let's talk about it a little bit. You are from Grand Rapids, and you remember the 2013 championship for the Calder Cup Grand Rapids Griffins, and, of course, the 2017. I know you were at some of those games in the Calder Cup finals as a fan. Talk a little bit about the importance of the Griffins being in that part of Michigan, because I really do believe that when you breed success, like in 2013, maybe sometimes it takes 10 years, sometimes it takes a little bit more than that, sometimes a little bit less than that, but it breeds more young hockey players to go play the game.
Oh, 100%. I mean, looking off those Calder Cup runs, I mean, if you look at the uptick in, I'm sure the numbers of hockey players in the area went up. And you also look at the number of players that are now joining the higher-end college ranks. The area itself has produced, the last 10 years, double the amount of NHL talent and draft picks than it did the previous 20. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like you said, I do think it goes directly to the Griffins' success. It also helps that, we talked about it, Grand Rapids is a pretty fun place to play. I think some of those players get there and they fall in love with the city and they stick around, and that only helps the talent pool getting the mentorship and the coaching from those guys that have played, especially at the AHL level. Like, they're amazing players. You're one step below from being the top league in the world. Any insight you can get from any players, especially that play at that level, is going to help.
Yeah, when here in Binghamton, same thing has happened. Our guys came in, played with the Dusters, played with the Whalers, and then they stuck around. They didn't leave. They were like, you're like, oh, you're from somewhere else. Well, yeah, but I'm going to stay here. Binghamton's a nice place to be. And so we had that as well, where players who played with the Whalers and the Dusters also then became high school hockey coaches and mentored young youth hockey players. And obviously that's benefited to have, now even some Binghamton players playing pro hockey. Youth hockey in Grand Rapids or the surrounding area, what was that like for you when you were a kid?
Yeah, we don't have the AAA hockey like the other side of the state does. There's one program. It didn't even exist when I grew up. So it was a little different compared to now. But, I mean, it was still competitive. We had double A and single A hockey there. And, you traveled around the state. You played teams in Detroit, but it was nice. We got to play a decent amount of local teams that were also talented and competitive. It was nothing too it wasn't like playing for Honey Baked or Little Caesars, though. Those teams are, they've been notoriously tough in the nation. And, you saw those teams as a youth, which was always cool because they have the coaching staffs and, the cool gear. Little Caesars, I think, is always one of the coolest jerseys you'll ever see, the baby blue and orange.
Right.
It's iconic, kind of. So, you've got all that around you, which is unique and cool. But where I grew up in Grand Rapids is just a little different. It's a little bit more of a you're 3 hours away from that. So you kind of, if you were good enough, you definitely drove across. As a youth, I definitely wasn't. So stuck at home and definitely benefited from playing some competitive youth games at home, though, which was nice.
Well, when you went to go play junior A hockey for Kirkland, and obviously in your second season had a very successful season, how much of a change was it for you? Was it like eye-opening? Because you had a decent first year, but the second year you really blossomed into a player that was really good at that level. So what was it like that first year when you got there? Was it a big culture change for you in the sense of the quality and the style of hockey?
Yeah, I mean, I think going from high school hockey to junior hockey was just a jump, especially at that time. High school hockey was very run and gun, just try to score as many goals as possible. Then all of a sudden you get to Canada and they tell you got to play some defense, and that was, like you said, culture shock to me. The other side of the blue line was not my friend back then. But, I had a really good coach up there who really mentored me and helped me throughout that process because, like you said, the first year was I wouldn't say it was a struggle, but it was one of those things where to get to where I was the second year, I kind of had to adapt my game a lot, and with good coaching, and it helped a lot.
Yeah, and talk about that year that you guys won the Junior A championship. I mean, that's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. We had a good group of guys. We had a young coach. His name was Mark LaFleur. He was just from the Rouge-Zydeco Huskies. And, he really pushed us hard throughout those 2 years. It really was a 2-year process, I'd say. We had a core group that was kind of there my first year and my second year. There was like 9 of us that were kind of gutted it out for 2 years there. And it was a small little town in northern Ontario, but it was a great little hockey place to play. It was an unbelievable time up there.
And what do you kind of take from winning a championship? What's that? What does that do for a young player? When you think back at it now, what did you learn about yourself, winning that championship?
Yeah, I thought that for me it was lucky. We were put into a pretty professional environment, given it's a small town. You're the local big team in town. You know, not a big city, but it was, you get that cool Junior A hockey experience where, like, you get you're getting decent little crowds at your games. You're in tight little Canadian barns, and you just get a real, it's one of those things where you get thrown into that environment earlier, and it's cool because you get to experience, like, high school hockey's fun. You get to play in front of your friends and family, but then, you get to feel like you won't say professional, but you get almost that feel.
Yeah.
So it's, like, hard to beat, especially when you're 18 through 20 years old. You get to wear a visor for the first time. It's just a different, you do grow up, I'd say. I think that's one of the things. You get to go away from home. You're 12, 15 hours away from home, depending on some situations. And, you get that aspect, too. You're away from home, away from mom and dad. So it's a lot of fun.
You're the second person that I've had on the show that went to Davenport. Austin Thompson, who plays with the Black Bears now, he also went to Davenport. What was the decision making to get you to go there? Did they scout you, or did you scout them?
They scouted me. They're local in Grand Rapids. Davenport is so.
Yep.
It was one of those situations where I was looking at a lot of different college opportunities, and they came in with a good situation for me, and it worked out.
Yeah, I think there's like a ton of Thompsons that went there, right? Because you
had me, my brother, and then Austin came in, and he actually played with my brother, and that was always a... yeah, so there was like 7 or 8 years of Thompsons at Davenport.
Yeah, I just thought that was pretty hilarious. And there is definitely no relationship between you and Austin Thompson, right, from the Black Bears?
No. As many people thought we were cousins, or my brother and him were cousins. We are not. We are... Just happened to be at the same school, at the same last names, at the same. He came in a year after I did, so like I said, he played with my brother for a year or two, and then he was still around for a couple more years after that.
So what is it about ACHA hockey that they've done so good in the last 15 years, right? Just that league, that conference has just been really, really good with Adrian, Davenport, producing players. And there are other schools, obviously, within ACHA that have produced pro hockey players, right? We're not just talking about guys that are just playing in the Fed, but ECHL as well. So what is it about club hockey that has really improved over the last 15 years? Because it has across the board.
Oh, 100%. I think it was hockey's one of those things still where it's, with only having 76 or under 80 Division I schools, it's just one of those opportunity things where I think some schools saw the opportunity, and I hate to say it's a business decision probably as well, but they saw that, you can get 23, 25 guys in here, and they, unfortunately, at the club level, you're paying for your own way, but at the same time for the school, if they will, a lot of the programs you mentioned, the schools themselves have great programs to back it up. So, as long as, these schools are taking care of the players really well, gear is taken care of, you're getting the tutoring, you're getting treated like a Division I player without being a Division I player. So I think that's what's really growing it. I think and kids get to experience it because, as fun as if you go to a top-end D3 school, don't get me wrong, you're definitely getting a experience that's probably, unbelievable as well, but if you're not quite that level, especially when coming out of junior, let's be real, not everyone at 20 years old or 18 years old is, a top NCAA player. So it provides a good opportunity for players in that realm and that spectrum that really they fall into that, and it gives players opportunity. You see the guys that are maybe when they were 20 years old coming out of junior that didn't maybe get as many reps as a guy, and he got those reps, and now he's in our league or in the next league, and he's doing just as well. And it's all about getting repetition and being in a place that you can succeed.
Do you think a top ACHA team can be a very good D3 team?
I think it's been proven that in any given one game, yes. Throughout the course of a season, I think it'd be interesting to see. One game, anyone has an opportunity, especially at the college level. There's just so many factors, I think. Obviously, if Denver starts their top goalie, their top line, everyone's not at World Juniors, it's probably a little bit different than the UNLV situation. But at the same time, it's a 60-minute game. Everyone has to show up and play. And, who you put on the ice is who you put on the ice, and you just hope your team wins.
Talk to me a little bit about your first experience with the Fed, and it was the FHL at the time. You were one of the guys that played when they didn't have 4 letters. the Carolina Thunderbirds, what was it like to go there for the first time in 2018-19 season and play there?
Yeah, so I mean, coming out of school, it's definitely it's different. Like I said, you get treated really well when you're at some of these programs. Davenport's one of them that treats you pretty well.
Right.
Getting into Carolina and getting into the Federal League was obviously something that was just, at the time, it was there was only, I think, 6 teams in the league too, so you didn't have a ton of choice per se. And it was one of the things that I was looking at all the teams that were available. Port Huron was still around, and at the time they weren't even really considering club guys. They were pretty hard on not taking in ACHA guys. So
really,
I was just really looking for an opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I emailed probably half the teams then, and it was one of those where you just don't have the NCAA experience. It was you understood it at the time. There were only 6 teams. They want what they want, and it just didn't really fit. And Carolina gave me the opportunity, really, is what it came down to.
Yeah, and then, of course, you also saw the SP side of things that year as well with Roanoke. And how different at that time was the play? Because I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've always told people you can correct me if I'm wrong when it comes to the statement. I feel like the SP and the FP today is a lot closer than what it was maybe even when you played in 2018-19.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different. I think there were some, especially my first year, there were still some older guys in both leagues, I'd say, you had some more 28 to 34-year-olds, and not every team had that, obviously, but it was more common to see that. And I'd say, to be honest, you really don't see that. There may be a couple guys I know that are a little older, but and not to say that it hinders the play at all. It's a different element to the game when everyone is 22 through 26. There's a different energy when guys are trying to make it comparatively to guys who have made it, and not that they have anything not to prove. Because I mean, anytime you're playing a professional hockey game and you're on the ice, you're proving something. I just think it's a little, like you said, I think the recruiting has gotten, I'd say, better. I think, like I talked about earlier, it was once frowned upon to take ACHA guys. It's one of those pools that I think this league is really tapped into. Obviously, the NCAA schools have always produced good players for this league. But given there are some programs, though, in the ACHA that produce really good players, and they've came in. I mean, you guys have Dakota Bone. He's a great player. I mean, he comes out of Adrian. I mean, defenseman of the year. I mean, we've had goalies of the year consistently coming from the ACHA, players of the year in both positions, forward and defenseman. So I think it's just one of those things where, as the league's grown, it's also opened up different avenues for players to come from, which, like I said, it wasn't necessarily open before. And I think you get that diamond in the rough player.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now you've played in Carolina, Roanoke, Peoria, Elmira, even for a short little stint, Fayetteville, Motor City. So you've seen what hockey is like in a lot of places. Obviously in Binghamton as well for 12 games. So you've seen some of the bigger barns. You've seen some of the smaller barns. The Fed seems to be getting closer and closer and closer to having almost a standard where if you're not being able to fill the 3,000 to 4,000 seat barns or higher, it almost doesn't seem like you're going to be a part of the new Fed, so to speak. And I'm not making any assumptions about any of the smaller barns, but you've seen both sizes of the barns, and the facilities are just different when you are in a small barn versus a bigger barn. Is the Fed going in the right direction in that sense?
Yeah, I think it's the markets themselves. They're presenting bigger barns because it's one of our game is growing. It's a popular game and I'm not just saying the game. I'm saying our specific game. I think the Federal League is a little different. It comes with another, like we talked about marketing the ECHL. I think you have to market the Federal League a little bit differently than you market all the other professional leagues as well. With that given, though, I think we do represent an exciting brand of hockey, and I think anytime that sports and drama is involved, I think it's let's be real, that's a good thing. That's what sells tickets. And if sports where we're getting our drama from, then that's probably a good thing as well for everyone. And I think it's hockey's one of those community games that it kind of brings everyone together in a sense of something can happen in a hockey game and the whole community can kind of come together and rally behind a team or a player, and it's how those fun rivalries start. It's so I think the chaos that comes with our league and comes with if you go to any individual game within our league, I think that's just what the popularity is. I think it's fun.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. What got you? Were you always thinking about coaching?
Coaching was one of those kind of, I won't say fell in, but it was one of those that just kind of presented itself, and it was an opportunity that I thought maybe would be something different. And once you're done playing, it's one of those you gotta kind of make that decision, come to terms with it, and then kind of find the next thing in coaching. Like I said with Carolina, coaching just happened to be the next opportunity that kind of fell into my lap.
Was it easy to stop playing for you?
Easy? No, I don't think it's ever easy to stop playing. I think once you play, it's always one of those things you want to. It became harder to play, especially at this level. As you become an adult, it's the training, it's the keeping everything together. Little injuries, I think, is what really kind of behind the scenes. It's one of those things where once you have all these little hindering injuries, it's really hard. Not that we're, you can take care of yourself as much as possible, but we're running into boards at 30 miles per hour. It's an amazing game, but once it takes its toll, all the travel and everything, it just does add up.
That sounds a lot like what Colin Fitzgerald told me just last week, where he talked about retiring, and it's it was just the day-to-day grind that was really getting to him. So talk to us a little bit about how you, I don't want to say fell into the Baton Rouge job, but obviously they needed somebody who had a good head on their shoulders, and you came in at the end of the year. Talk a little bit about that.
So I was at Davenport University back in my alma mater coaching.
Yep.
I was the assistant there for the season, and then conversations kind of started to happen around the end of our season. I was looking at the situation, and I was actually potentially going to play for a team at the end of the year if it did, but I was pretty adamant on not wanting to. Mm-hmm. And then it was one of those discussions that came up. It was do you think you could turn this around if you were given an opportunity? There's about, I think it was 8 or 9 weeks left in the season, and it was one of those, the expectations aren't high, but let's see what you can do with it type of thing. And, learning throughout the year of coaching was very necessary. I don't think anyone can just jump into coaching without getting a good perspective as an assistant first. It's one of those things where being a head coach is it's a totally different field of work than playing, and it was good to take a step back and see it from someone that had been doing it for a long time first before being thrown into it, because I think that helped a lot. Even when I was thrown into it, it didn't feel like I was being thrown into it as much, given that I got to see a little bit of a perspective of what a head coach should act and all that type of stuff.
And did it help that it was a place that you were comfortable with, right? You spent 4 years with Davenport, right? So that first year as an assistant, just you're in a place where the building, some of the staff that's probably still there. All those type of things really do help you be able to be comfortable and learn a little bit better and a little bit easier.
Especially like you said, it's one of those things where you're back to being familiar. You look at the career I had, you're doing a lot of traveling. You're in a lot of, you're one place one day, next place the other. And not that you get familiar in certain places, and some places are more natural. You just feel welcomed and comfortable. And Davenport, and that's where I'm from, so it's always been home. So it's one of those things where taking that time to be home with family. My brother had just had a kid at the time, so it was nice to just kind of take that pause from what had been basically 10, 12 years of traveling, either Northern Ontario or throughout this league. It adds up.
Now, obviously, you were asked, hey, can you help turn this around? And was your initial gut, yes, I can do that?
You have to take it with perspective.
Sure.
I thought that there's a possibility of, yes, we can get this in the right direction. Obviously, the success that came, you don't really guess. You're praying, kind of hoping, but I think things went better than expected, I'll say. But at the same time, it was one of those things. I had some confidence in some of the things, but then you also, you're entering a realm that you truly don't know. So there was a lot of, just kind of hoping for things to go as well. And they fortunately for me, they did.
This year you guys have had, so one of the unique things, and for any of the Binghamton fans or any of the fans in the FPHL that are listening to this that don't know, Mardi Gras affects heavily the schedule for the Zydeco. Were you prepared for how you were going to, because this is an important part of probably a head coach, is how do you keep your team up for that many road games? How did you approach this coming into this? Because you guys are still in the middle of it right now because of how long Mardi Gras is and everything that they need to do at the Raising Cane's Center for that whole, celebration. Were you ready for, and how did you prepare your team? Because some of the guys probably from last year knew about it, but, how did you prepare them?
So that is with the help of, that's where, we have a good GM here, Don Lewis. Me and him sat down all summer. It's one of those things where you look at the schedule and you try to break things down. Obviously, when you're in the moment, it's week by week. You're just trying to make sure that everything is going as smoothly as possible. It's one of those things where if you're going to be traveling like this for an extended period of time, it's you mark it on the calendar, you know it's coming, and then you do everything you can in a sense of, make sure that the little things are done to the point you can, but there's also just always uncontrollable and unforeseen things that are going to happen, and, not that we try to bring those up too, but, we play the game of what happens if this happens, and how are we, and I think doing a lot of those scenarios when we did them in July and going through, it makes it, not that it's ever going to get easier, especially as this league is always going to have this traveling, and this league will always be the thing that butt head the most. But at the same time, I think when you do plan it as much as we did, is it ever going to be perfect? No, but is it? It's. I know when I came in last year, it was towards the end of this stretch as well, and it was definitely overbearing on some of the guys. And I think like I said, it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to have 20 people truly happy with everything that's going on, I think, but I think we've done a good job of negating it becoming the naggingness of, we're doing this for 8 weeks. I think it's kind of one of the team attitudes that we have is, it's just whatever happens, you have to embrace it, and we'll be fine on the other side of it as long as we keep a positive attitude. And I think that's one of the things. We've got a really good group here, and the guys really bought in, which also really helps.
Yeah, in the 8 games, the first 8 games of being on the road for this very long stretch, 4 games against the Dashers, 2 of them were in Topeka. We'll talk about that in just a few seconds. But you guys took the 4 games from the Dashers, dropped the 4 games to the Athens Rock Lobsters. I'm sure you probably would have liked to pick up a couple of those wins against the Rock Lobsters. I know the last game was a 3-0 loss, very close game, and even the first game to start this road trip was a 4-3 game that you guys lost in the shootout. I know you'd probably like a couple more of those wins. Is it still one of those things where you can be positive and say, hey, listen, we're 500 right now through the first 8 games of this road trip. We could obviously be a little bit better, and we're going to do better. But how do you talk to the boys about the 8 games?
It's definitely one of those where it gets frustrating at times. You have to take a perspective on what they're going through. I think you try to put yourself in their shoes, but then you also do try to put yourself. You try to put them in the. Hey guys, these games are no matter what happens, how we get here, they're winnable games. And I think any game so far we've been in on this road trip, even those 3 in Athens, I think there were segments of the game that we could have been better at. And that's going to happen. If we're going to be on a 3-game skid, I'm not going to say it's okay that it's now, but I think it's one of those things where if you're going to go on it, you'd rather have it happen in February.
Sure.
Right? It's that perspective. I don't look at it more of a how it's happening. We're on the road trip. That's fine. I mean, that kind of, it's obviously, it is what it is, but I think it's just, you got to look at it and take it for, we're going to be in this playoff push here, and we talked about it earlier off this set before, and I'm sure we brought up again, this standings race is very tight, and we've put ourselves in a good situation. So it's one of those, you got to remind the guys, they're a good hockey team. We're building in the right direction still, and coming from where we were a year ago, we're still learning. You have to learn to win games. It's, Binghamton didn't just win a championship. You win a lot of games, and you go through a lot of situations to get to those points. So then when those situations arise, they're not it turns into just another game. It's not the championship game with all the lights and everything. You make plays just like you would on a Saturday if you were playing beer league. It's just one of those things where the game's got to become natural. And right now, that last week especially, we're kind of fighting ourselves a little bit. But like I said, it's one of those things where if we're going to have that happen, I'd rather it be now than in May.
No, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the two games in Topeka. I know you guys spent, I think, some time in Topeka kind of really promoting this, if I remember correctly. What were the games like in Topeka? I mean, how much fun was that?
They were fun, yeah. For a neutral site game, it was definitely exciting. We've put them on in the past, and they're always great to bring hockey back to these communities, especially ones like Topeka that literally didn't have hockey for. They haven't had it since it left, I think, 5 years ago. So there's a real, when we were there's a lot of people that were like, man, we're just so excited that there's even, hockey here, let alone that it's professional hockey. And you guys are, it's one of those things where I think our product is really good at, in those community situations. That's where I think we're our best. And I think that's, being there for a week, being able to really show, our players' faces, show how, you can go talk to a player. You might, get an autograph. They're real people. It's not like, these guys are getting in their private jets and leaving. They're going to sit here and talk to you for a little while, and, it makes it fun for everyone.
Yeah, I've tried to explain to people in the 20-plus years that I've done these type of things, and either interviewing pro wrestlers or interviewing hockey players, coaches, or whoever it might be, I've always said fans need to realize these are just human beings. They're just regular people like you and I. And if you go up there and just are respectful and just mind sometimes privacy in a little bit. Like if you see somebody out in the restaurant, don't go over there and hover over them. You might ask for an autograph or something like that. But you got they're human beings, and which I've tried to kind of expose in some cases on my show, which is, listen, this might be a tough guy. He might be fighting on the ice. But he's a super nice guy off the ice as well. And it seemed like that. And they got 3,000 plus fans for both games that you guys were there.
It was, and I believe the weekend after as well. It was packed for both of our games, and it was a great weekend. That team will have. Obviously you never know how the team's roster is going to assemble, but
Sure.
They'll have everything you'll need for success. The locker room was great. The facilities were great. It's a fabulous arena. It's a great venue. So, intangible wise, they're going to have everything that you'll need to have a successful team at this level. So I'll be excited to see what happens there, especially in the short future here. That'll all come together here really quickly. So it'll be fun to see.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit before we talk about some individual players on your team and get your thoughts on them. Let's talk about these standings. I mean, second place to sixth place is difference by 12. Now, as most people know, Athens hasn't played as many games as everybody else has. But we talk about the competitive level, in the Continental Division, and it's pretty awesome. Obviously, Carolina has played pretty well. They've also played 35 games, and so have you guys. But how competitive, day to day, game to game, are these games in the Continental Division?
Yeah, I don't think every weekend there's been two of the three. If we have a 3-3, they're always, it seems to be just one goal just battles right now. It's exciting for the league. I think a couple of years ago you'd see every couple of weekends, unfortunately, you'd see the big blowouts and whatnot. And across the board this year, I'd say almost all of our teams are competitive. And then when you come to the Deep South, especially, these are some new markets and some new teams here, and right out the gate they're making big moves. I think everyone in the summertime kind of saw some of the teams making transactions, and you knew this division was going to be competitive, but I don't think anyone thought it was going to be 6 teams deep that were, like you said, this tight.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And I know probably some people, probably in the Northeast, some guy named Bob who hosts the show said Monroe, Baton Rouge, but it's worked. It's really worked. And you're from Grand Rapids or in the Western Michigan area. Are you I don't want to say surprised, but a little bit shocked, a little bit like, wow, this has worked down here, and it's pretty impressive. Now, hockey's always worked in the South, so don't let anyone fool you when they say that. But we're talking about, single A hockey working in the South as well.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where the South is, if you look at it historically, there was good hockey here for 20 years ago for a decent amount of time, and then I think you had the Katrina stuff, and then some other things happened, and this whole region, it kind of disappeared for a good decade, and then I think the revival of it is just one of those things where these fans, they miss the hockey itself. Unfortunately, this region, there's not a ton of youth hockey still. It's still one of those things that's coming. There's not a ton of rinks, but I think with the emergence of some of these teams and the popularity that it's coming, you're going to start to see that stuff. It's just one of those things where it's going to take time because, I said, some of these teams haven't had teams and they haven't had hockey here for 10 years, and you're going off of someone that went to a game 10 years ago and never even had the access to go try a pair of skates on and skate for themselves. So I think it's still one of those things that it's got to take there's still some leaps and bounds that got to get broken here and some barriers per se, but I think we're getting close, and, we're on this region it's just as hockey hungry, I'd say, as anyone. I think there's a lot of, not to say some southern birds coming down here, but I think there's just more people moving down from up north as well that's kind of helping the growth. And I think it's going to take one of those things where you get a few youth rinks down here, and I think you'll really see a big emergence. And you never know where the next future NHL superstar comes from. I think,
Agreed.
Austin Matthews coming from Arizona really should breathe some light into maybe we should test out these other markets to see where, in lies some of these really talented players.
No, totally agree. Hey, listen, let's talk about a few of these players. Brody Thornton, did you even know the kind of player you were going to get when Brody came in?
So he was one of the guys I got to watch last year when I was at Davenport. He was at Adrian. As you know, that's a great program there. And playing, I was coaching against them, so it was one of those things where I saw him play and kind of was like, that'd be a player that could help us if we get to him. So he was definitely one of the priorities over the summer, I'd say.
Yeah, and, obviously 8 goals and 14 assists for the rookie defenseman. Who would you say on your team has been your MVP so far?
Oh, that's, I'd say he's a heart and soul right now, number 96, Tyler Larwood. I mean, he's one of those you look at as elite prospects, you're going to be, really? But, I mean, this year, I saw him last year play. He's just got a motor on him, an engine, and, he's fearless. I think at this level, the fearlessness really gets you far. The guys that are just willing to go to those dirty areas every single time consistently, play physically, play with that chip on your shoulder. He's got everything you want in that sense. And, he's finally getting the point production in his career that, I'm sure it's one of those things that just hasn't worked out, and it is now, and we're lucky that it is for us.
You guys have 2 very good goaltenders as well. Obviously, a lot of people know of Brendan Colgan, but Bailey Stevens as well. Both of these guys have impressive numbers. They do.
I can't say anything bad about our goaltending this year. They've been tremendous on and off the ice. They bring it every day. We only have the 2 of them here, so they take a ton of shots in practice as well. And they're, as good as their numbers are in games, they make our scoring in practice pretty tough too. They're elite. There's nothing else you can really say about it. I think Bailey's one of those things where came in last year and really ran away with an opportunity. And, he came in again this year with, it was one of those things where we kind of had a little goalie battle in training camp. It brought in a body to see if he could compete or, push him out. And it was hands down just the attitude they have and then the compete level they bring every game. We always have a chance, and that's one thing you ask of your goaltending is to give you a chance, right?
Coach, would you not agree? I mean, I think the league has always had really good forwards, but I just really believe that defensively this league has gotten better over the last 4 or 5 years. Goaltending and defensive players on the ice, it's just gotten better than it was maybe, say, 10 years ago.
I agree completely. Just the players we're getting and the goaltending, I mean, it's 2 things that has been consistently across the board. You look at the numbers of the goalies that we're getting, even the guys that are getting called up there. Austin Rodebush once upon a time was a starter in this league as well. It's this is a great opportunity for guys to kind of, run with an opportunity, and it can get you to other places. This is as legitimate as a professional league as any of them, in my opinion, and it's just one of those things where, especially for the goaltenders, it's we have some really good goalies, and I think it's throughout the league. I don't think there's not a singular team that has, they at least have one stud.
This weekend, you guys have 2 games against Monroe, and if I'm looking at this correct, then you go over to Mississippi, over to Biloxi on Sunday for a game. Do me a favor. We saw Mississippi just a couple weeks ago. Binghamton did, as they went down there and played 3 games in Biloxi. Give us a scouting matchup of Monroe. What's Monroe like?
They're a bigger team, size-wise. They got some guys that have some size. They're one of the teams that they're built from the back out. Their netminder's really good. They've got Kuhn there, who's he's tough to beat any given night. Their back end is pretty solid. You got Mo back there. You got a few guys with some SP experience. Some guys that have played in this league for a while as well. And then they do have some talented forwards. They got Heitzner now. So up and down the board, they're a talented team. They play gritty. It's one of those fun matchups here in Louisiana. I think all the fans here really benefit from, getting a team in Louisiana now as well, so we get that fun in-state rivalry. And, there's no love lost out there, I'll tell you that right now.
Do the fans travel from both cities to each other's city to watch? Will there be some Baton Rouge fans in?
Our fans, yes, our fans travel pretty well. That is one thing we do pride ourselves on, is our Booster Club and fans in general travel, especially to these 3 2-hour games. I mean, we definitely have them traveled as far as Columbus, and even last season they'd go to the Whitfield and the Carolina, but this year it's we have tremendous support wherever we go.
And Coach, you know this as much as anybody playing in this league and playing in the SPHL. The booster clubs really do make a difference for players on sometimes a day-to-day part of them being in the Fed, correct?
Oh, the booster clubs are the lifeline of these players. It always will be and always has been. It's like even back at Slapshot, they had the booster club. So it's if you're going to have a minor pro hockey team, the booster club is going to be, if you have a good booster club, it's only going to help your good team be even better.
Yeah, Binghamton's Booster Club has been around for 52 years. One of the longest running in the United States, for sure, along with like Rochester and Hershey. And we'll stop with this. Grand Rapids won the 2 titles. Is the first one in your mind, in your heart, the special one in 2013?
That one is always going to be special. I think it kind of kick-started, but in my opinion, I was in the building for the second one.
So that one's a little bit more special then? Okay, I got it. Yeah, no, it makes
more
because you were there.
Personally, I'd say
because they won
it was in Grand Rapids. It was in the Van Andel Arena, in front of the home crowd. I think the first one is always going to be. You never can take away from how important it was, right? Like it truly started the run. You don't have the second one without the first one, so let's not. Let's not. Crawl. Let's not run before we crawl here. But at the same time, just from a personal, I think it was a sold-out building. I mean, if you look at some of the players still, you had Tyler Bertuzzi. He's one of the key players in that team. It's just a lot of stars on both teams. You can't even remember the specifics at the moment, but I mean, it was a great game. And at the same time, you have one of those, Calder Cup finals as you've seen. It's just as fun. Those games are exciting. And when you win, if you're part of that winning experience, it's a great time.
Well, it's funny too because I've said many times that when the AHL player is playing in the regular season, all they want to do is go to the NHL, right? That's all they care about. As soon as they get into the Calder Cup finals, they want to win the title. So when they get to the finals, those guys don't care about the NHL at that point. They don't care about their career. They just want to host that championship. And the reason why I asked you the question is because Binghamton won their championship down in Houston against the Arrows, and they won it down in Houston, had to fly back with the cup and kind of parade it around the city, which they did. First they went to the hospital because of the assistant coach was in the hospital at the time. And then they kind of paraded around. And then, obviously, the Black Bears won their championship at home. And it really is one of those things where it's like, oh, well, this was our first, but this one was won at home. It's a 2 different type of specialness to it.
winning at home is always it's I don't think it's one of those feelings that I obviously can't ever speak from it, but as a fan for perspective,
yes.
It's pure bliss. You know, you get to see the team, you get to see everyone celebrate on home ice. You know, a place you're in, you'll never not. You go to those, you'll always remember the parade or the celebrations that followed, and I think that's what's truly special about the whole experience.
Absolutely. Coach, good luck the rest of the season. Hopefully we can have you back on the show again to talk more about the Zydeco and about the Fed and just the growth of this league. Obviously, there's speculation of other cities that might come in to the Fed over the next year or two, which will be very exciting. I hope you're enjoying coaching because I've watched Brant Sherwood kind of grow as a coach over the last couple of years, and it's kind of fun to see some of the highs and the lows and the things he gets happy about and upset about, whatever it might be, and decisions. I hope you're enjoying the growth of you as a head coach.
It's the best sport on earth, right? Anytime you get to work in the sport, it's the best day on earth. So, I'm sure Sherwood also can tell you, there's not a better day to come to the rink. I'll take this over any other job. So, it's awesome. It's a great opportunity, and it's one of those things where every day I wake up super excited to get to work. So it's a blessing, and it's an opportunity that you got to take advantage of as well.
Well, Coach, good luck this weekend against Monroe and then Mississippi on Sunday, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thanks again.
All right, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I'm just really happy to be able to talk to Jesse Anderson here on the show again, and, of course, Everett Thompson. Two very great guys here in the FPHL. I'm glad to be able to get to talk to both of them. This weekend, Black Bears have the HC Venom. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to have no problems getting 2 more wins and extending the win streak. I wouldn't want to be in the locker room if they don't win against the HC Venom this weekend with Coach Sherwood. But I have complete confidence that they're going to get it done. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lapoulis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, and Black Bears defenseman Jesse Anderson, and former Black Bear and current Baton Rouge Zydeco head coach Everett Thompson. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you on Sunday for the weekend wrap-up show right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Petitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.